It was an ordinary evening for the Jenkins family. After a long day of work and school, they settled in for a peaceful night at home. Unbeknownst to them, a fire was quietly starting in the kitchen. A short circuit in an old appliance triggered the blaze, which began to spread slowly, unnoticed by anyone inside. As the night grew darker, so did the danger within their walls. The fire smoldered beneath the family's awareness, creeping through the house like a silent threat. Meanwhile, their golden retriever, Max, who had been lying on his usual spot at the foot of his owner's bed, suddenly began to stir. Max wasn't just a dog. He was the family's vigilant protector. The smoke that started to fill the kitchen began to reach the hallway, but it wasn't enough to wake anyone. It was Max's incredible instincts and love for his family that pushed him to act. With a loud bark, he leapt from his resting place, sensing the danger long before the humans could. The fire that threatened to engulf the Jenkins family home began innocently enough. It was a simple electrical malfunction in the kitchen, an old toaster oven that had been left plugged in, unbeknownst to the family. The small electrical spark ignited a pile of kitchen towels that were carelessly left too close to the oven. What followed was the slow but steady spread of flames that began to rise higher and higher, consuming the nearby cabinets and shelves. The smell of smoke was faint at first, almost unnoticeable, blending into the air as it silently invaded the rooms. Max, who had been known for his sharp senses, was the first to notice something was wrong. He had seen his family members leave the kitchen after dinner, but unlike them, he noticed the scent of smoke, the slight heat building in the air. As the fire spread, Max became anxious, his instincts kicking in. The house remained silent otherwise, with no one aware of the growing danger. Max's heightened sense of smell gave him a window of opportunity to save his family, and he didn't hesitate to make his move, barking fiercely to alert them of the impending disaster. The Jenkins family had just begun to fall into the rhythms of a peaceful evening. After a long dinner, they retreated to their bedrooms to rest for the night. The lights went off, and the house fell into a quiet calm. The kids, Emily and Jake, were tucked into their beds, their soft breathing rising and falling as they slipped into deep slumber. The parents, Sarah and John, were curled up in their own bed, enjoying a moment of tranquility after a busy day. It seemed like any other night, but as they peacefully slept, the fire grew closer. The fire, however, was not yet loud or violent enough to wake them. The creeping danger was masked by the silence of the night. Max, ever watchful, understood the urgency of the moment. He had seen the fire growing in the kitchen, and he knew that the family was in danger. He couldn't wait for someone else to notice. Instead, he took matters into his own paws, running from room to room, jumping on beds, and barking loudly to rouse his loved ones. His persistent barks finally broke through the deep sleep, causing Sarah to stir and then quickly wake John. It was Max's alarm that ultimately saved them from a far worse fate. Max had always been a smart and intuitive dog. He was not only a loyal companion but also a watchful protector, aware of his surroundings in a way that many humans could not comprehend. While most of the family slept soundly, Max could sense the shift in the atmosphere. The faint scent of smoke filled his nostrils, and the once safe air around him grew thick and heavy with each passing minute. Max's sharp canine instincts kicked in. He knew something wasn't right. He immediately began to move, pacing in the hallway, his ears perked and alert. Max was not the type to sit idly by when his family was in danger. His instincts drove him to take action. He started barking loudly, trying to get anyone's attention. But his barks were not just the typical excited yelps he made when he saw a squirrel or a neighbor. These barks were urgent, filled with the raw panic of a dog who knew there was a real threat in the house. His body language shifted, his tail stiffening, his stance becoming resolute. Max's intuition wasn't just an emotional response, it was a deep-seated survival instinct, honed by years of loyalty and love for his family. Max didn't waste any time once he realized what was happening. His barking was intense, almost frantic, and it echoed through the house. He ran from one room to the next, jumping on the beds, shaking and nudging the sleeping bodies of Sarah, John, and their 2 children. His paws landed on the soft comforters, leaving muddy paw prints as he jumped from room to room. It was as if he knew the exact moment when every member of the family needed to be awakened. His powerful barks cut through the silence of the night, breaking the spell of sleep and rousing the family from their peaceful slumbers. Sarah was the first to wake, confused at the barking and the sudden weight on her chest. When she saw Max jumping on her, his fur matted with sweat, she knew something was wrong. The dog's frantic behavior was unlike anything she had seen before. John woke up shortly after, his first instinct being to check on the kids. But the urgency in Max's eyes, the way he continued to bark and dart around, pushed them both to act quickly. They could already feel the heat of the smoke creeping under the door. They didn't have much time, and Max had just given them the warning they needed to escape. Max's barking had been persistent, but it was his presence that made all the difference in waking the Jenkins family. Sarah and John woke with an unsettling feeling, their hearts racing as the sense of danger set in. As Sarah stumbled out of bed, she caught a glimpse of smoke creeping through the doorframe. The burning smell that lingered in the air confirmed her worst fear. "Fire!" she screamed to John, her voice filled with urgency. Max's barking grew louder as he ran around, continuing to nudge the children's doors, trying to rouse them as quickly as possible. In the kids' rooms, Emily and Jake were still fast asleep, unaware of the fire threatening their home. Max, sensing that time was running out, began jumping up on their beds, his paws landing on the blankets, and his face a mix of anxiety and urgency. Emily was the first to stir, groggily opening her eyes. When she saw Max's frantic eyes and heard the crackling noise of the fire, her heart skipped a beat. Jake woke up shortly after, both children looking to their parents for guidance. Max's instinct to wake them was flawless, and within moments, the entire family was awake, alert, and ready to flee their burning home. Max's relentless barking did more than just wake the family. It caught the attention of the neighbors as well. The Jenkins family lived in a quiet, close-knit neighborhood where everyone knew each other. As Max's barks echoed through the walls of their house, it wasn't long before the neighbors, the Wilsons, heard the noise. They were already in bed, but the urgency of the sound sent them rushing to their windows. Through the darkness, they could make out the faint orange glow from the kitchen windows of the Jenkins house. Mrs. Wilson quickly dialed 911, while her husband, Mr. Wilson, grabbed his phone to make sure the fire department was on their way. Within moments, the sirens could be heard in the distance, signaling that help was on the way. While the Jenkins family was still trying to escape the growing fire, the Wilsons' quick thinking and action meant the firefighters were prepared to act as soon as they arrived. Max's barking had been the catalyst for the entire neighborhood's quick response. The fire department would later credit the Wilsons for their timely call, but they also acknowledged that without Max's initial warning, things could have been far worse. As Max continued to lead his family out of danger, the fire spread rapidly. The flames, now licking up the walls of the kitchen, began to leap toward the living room. The house was an old one, with wooden beams and walls that were quickly consumed by the inferno. The smoke grew thicker, pouring from the windows and under the doors, forcing the family to act fast. Every second counted as they rushed through the smoke-filled hallway, guided by Max's presence. Sarah led the way, holding Emily's hand as John held Jake's. Max was right there with them, moving ahead as if he knew the safest escape route. They made it to the front door, but it was already surrounded by thick smoke. Max, however, had found a side window that was still accessible, leading the family to safety. The fire was out of control by now, but Max's guidance ensured they didn't get lost in the smoke or trapped in the flames. Without him, the family might have panicked or taken the wrong route, costing them precious seconds. His calm and calculated actions proved to be the difference between life and death. Max's leadership was apparent as he moved through the house, always staying close to the family. The smoke was now overwhelming, and the family's vision was impaired by the thick haze. But Max remained steady, guiding them with his presence, always leading them forward. His instincts were spot on as he navigated them through the darkened house, avoiding rooms that were too close to the flames. His courage never wavered as he stayed a few steps ahead, ensuring the family didn't veer off course or make a wrong turn. At one point, Sarah thought they might have to climb out of a window, but Max seemed to know that the door near the kitchen was still passable, despite the smoke. He led them to it without hesitation, barking once more as if to remind them to hurry. The family moved quickly, trusting Max's judgment. When they finally emerged from the house into the cool night air, they looked back in disbelief. Their house was now fully engulfed, flames shooting into the sky. The fire had nearly claimed everything, but thanks to Max, they had all escaped unharmed. By the time the fire department arrived, the family was safe and sound, gathered outside their home. The fire was still raging, but they were far enough away that the flames could no longer reach them. Max stood proudly next to Sarah, his fur singed, but his eyes full of loyalty and love. The firefighters worked swiftly, trying to control the blaze that had already destroyed much of the house. As they assessed the damage, the family couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for their brave dog. They knew that if it hadn't been for Max's quick thinking, the outcome could have been far different. Max, despite the smoke and chaos, remained calm throughout the ordeal. He had kept the family focused, ensuring they were safe every step of the way. No one had been harmed, and the house, though badly damaged, was still standing. The Jenkins family's appreciation for Max was beyond words. They held him close, never letting him out of their sight. In a world full of uncertainty, Max had been their unwavering protector, and they would forever be thankful for his bravery and loyalty. As the sounds of the sirens grew louder, the Jenkins family watched in relief. The fire trucks arrived just as the last of the flames were beginning to swallow the roof of their home. Firefighters rushed out of the trucks with urgency, quickly assessing the scene. They were well trained, calm under pressure, but they could see that the situation was dire. The fire had already consumed much of the interior, and the exterior was beginning to crumble under the heat. But what caught their attention first was the sight of Max, standing protectively by his family, his fur singed but his demeanor calm and composed. One of the firefighters approached Max, giving the brave dog a pat on the head as he made his way to the family. "That dog saved your lives," he said, his voice filled with admiration. Max's actions had not gone unnoticed by the first responders. The family, in awe of what had just transpired, nodded in agreement. They could only imagine how different things might have been without their heroic dog. Max's courageous instincts were the reason they were standing there, safe, when just moments ago, they feared the worst. The firefighters were quick to begin their work, but they didn't forget to thank Max for his heroic efforts, which had truly made the difference. The Jenkins family, still in shock, gathered together outside, away from the chaotic scene. Max sat by their side, panting but proud. Sarah wrapped her arms around her children, making sure they were all safe, while John watched as the firefighters battled the blaze. For a long time, no one spoke. The reality of what had just happened was too overwhelming. They were lucky to be alive, and they knew it. As Sarah glanced down at Max, her heart swelled with gratitude. This dog, who had been nothing more than a beloved pet, had turned into their guardian angel in a way they could never have imagined. "I don't even know how to thank you," Sarah whispered to Max, rubbing his head softly. The children, still in shock, clung to their parents, their eyes wide with disbelief. They too knew how fortunate they were, and how deeply their dog had influenced the course of events. Max, as always, was content simply being there with them, his wagging tail the only sign that he knew the importance of what had just transpired. To him, it had been an instinct. To the Jenkins family, it was nothing short of a miracle. Despite the traumatic events of the night, Max showed remarkable resilience. The flames had singed his fur, and he had breathed in the smoke, but he never faltered in his duty to protect his family. He remained alert and steadfast, even as the fire raged behind them. Max's strong instincts had saved the day, and despite the trauma of the fire, he stayed by his family's side. It was as if he knew that his job was not over just because they had escaped the immediate danger. Max stuck close, ensuring the family remained calm and that everyone stayed together as they waited for the fire to be extinguished. Though Sarah and John were visibly shaken, Max's presence helped them feel safe. He didn't show signs of distress, just a quiet determination that his family was going to be okay. His loyalty shone through in every movement, every glance he gave. Even in the face of a devastating fire, Max's calm and brave actions served as a beacon of hope. The family had no doubt that without him, things could have been much worse. They couldn't imagine a life without their four-legged hero, who had not only saved them from the fire but had also kept them together in the face of overwhelming fear. The next morning, after the fire had been subdued and the family had been safely relocated to a nearby hotel, the gravity of the situation set in. The house, which had once been a warm, welcoming home, was now nothing more than a burned-out shell. What remained of the walls was blackened, the windows shattered, and the kitchen, the source of the blaze, had been completely destroyed. It was hard for the family to believe that their entire lives had just been turned upside down in a matter of hours. But despite the overwhelming loss, they knew they had something far more important to hold on to: each other and Max. Sarah and John spent the morning making calls to insurance companies and starting the painful process of trying to salvage what was left. They took solace in the fact that their children were unharmed, and Max was there to comfort them. Emily and Jake, though sad and confused, were also incredibly grateful for their dog. Max had been their protector, their hero, and the one who made sure they didn't lose everything. As they sat together in the hotel room, Max curled up beside them, and they all knew that as long as they had each other and Max, they would find a way to move forward. As the days passed, the Jenkins family began to rebuild. The shock of the fire was still fresh, but the support from their community helped ease the burden. Neighbors came forward, offering food, shelter, and emotional support. The Wilsons, who had been the first to hear the commotion and call the fire department, were especially instrumental in helping the family get back on their feet. They had known the Jenkins for years and couldn't imagine what they must be going through. The Wilsons offered to take the kids to school while Sarah and John sorted through the wreckage, and they even started a fundraiser to help the family get back on their feet. Max was the centerpiece of all the support. Word of the dog's heroics had spread quickly throughout the neighborhood, and soon, the Jenkins were receiving cards, gifts, and donations from strangers who had heard the story of the brave dog who saved a family. People offered to help with whatever they could, from finding temporary housing to assisting in the search for a new home. Max had become a symbol of courage and hope for the entire community, and his heroism had touched more lives than the Jenkins family could have ever imagined. As the family began to move on, one of the things they focused on was ensuring Max's recovery. The brave dog had been through a lot during the fire, and his body was showing the signs of wear and tear. He had suffered burns to his paws and fur, and his nose was still slightly singed from the smoke. But despite it all, Max was uncomplaining. He still had that same look in his eyes, determined, loving, and loyal. Sarah and John made sure he received the care he needed, taking him to the vet for treatment and keeping a watchful eye on his recovery. Max's resilience was nothing short of inspiring. Each day, he grew stronger, and soon his wounds began to heal. His fur started to regrow, and the burns on his paws slowly faded. He was still the same dog, full of energy and life, but with a new sense of purpose. Max's bravery had made him a local hero, and as he recovered, the Jenkins family felt an even deeper bond with him. They knew that their lives would never be the same after the fire, but with Max by their side, they felt a renewed sense of hope and gratitude. The local news caught wind of Max's brave actions, and soon the story was being shared far and wide. The family had no idea how much attention the fire rescue would generate, but before they knew it, their story had gone viral. Max's face was all over the news, and people from all around the country were reaching out to congratulate him for his bravery. Max had become a symbol of loyalty and courage, and many people were inspired by his actions. The Jenkins family was surprised by the outpouring of love and support. They never expected their beloved dog to become a national hero, but they were proud to share Max's story. The fire department even awarded Max with a special plaque for his heroic efforts. It was an emotional moment for the family, who had already been through so much. But as Max stood there, wagging his tail proudly, they knew he had truly earned the title of hero. Despite the hardship they had faced, the Jenkins family found strength in each other and in Max's unwavering loyalty. They eventually moved into a new home, one that they had chosen together as a family. The house was smaller, but it was filled with love and memories. And Max, their heroic dog, was by their side every step of the way. The Jenkins family would never forget the night of the fire, but over time, it became a story of triumph rather than tragedy. Max had not only saved their lives, but had shown them the true meaning of family, loyalty, and bravery. They were stronger because of the fire, and they were more united than ever before. Max would always be remembered as the dog who had saved them all, and his place in their hearts and home was cemented forever. As the years passed, Max continued to be a beloved member of the Jenkins family. He had grown older, but his energy never waned. He still enjoyed walks in the park, playing fetch with the kids, and lounging by the fireplace on chilly evenings. But the story of the fire and his bravery would always be part of their family history. Max had taught them the importance of loyalty, courage, and the unbreakable bond that can exist between a family and their dog. The Jenkins family made sure to share Max's story with everyone they met, passing down the tale of the dog who had saved them from the fire. It was a legacy of bravery, and Max's heroism would never be forgotten. They knew that they had been blessed to have such a remarkable dog, one who had truly changed their lives for the better. And as they grew older, Max remained their protector and best friend, a constant reminder of the power of love and loyalty. Max's story became part of local folklore, and his legacy lived on in the community. Schools and libraries held events where they shared Max's story of heroism, teaching young children about bravery, kindness, and the importance of caring for others. Max, with his kind eyes and courageous heart, had become a symbol of what it meant to be truly selfless. As Max aged, the Jenkins family continued to honor him in their hearts. His bravery had saved their lives, and now they were committed to ensuring that his legacy would never be forgotten. They shared stories of Max with friends and family, and every year, on the anniversary of the fire, they would gather together to celebrate his incredible courage. Max was more than just a dog. He was a hero, and his legacy would live on forever in the hearts of the Jenkins family and in the community that had been touched by his heroism. As Max aged, his once boundless energy started to wane. While he still enjoyed his daily walks and time spent with the family, the aftereffects of the fire, coupled with the passage of time, began to take a toll on his body. The burns he had sustained from the fire had healed, but the smoke inhalation and stress on his respiratory system had left some lasting damage. Sarah and John were vigilant in monitoring his health, taking him to regular vet visits to ensure that he remained as comfortable as possible. There were days when Max seemed more tired than usual, his breaths heavier, but even on those days, he never lost his unwavering spirit. Max continued to be the loyal companion the family had come to rely on. The Jenkins family made accommodations for Max's changing needs, purchasing orthopedic beds to help his joints and ensuring that he didn't overexert himself. They showered him with love and attention, wanting to give him the best quality of life in his later years. Max had given them everything when they needed him most, and they were determined to do the same for him in his golden years. The Jenkins family's lives had changed dramatically in the aftermath of the fire, and as time passed, they felt compelled to share their story in hopes of inspiring others. Sarah and John started a blog dedicated to the lessons they had learned from the fire and Max's bravery. It wasn't just about the fire itself, but also about the power of community, the importance of preparedness, and the incredible bond between a family and their dog. Their blog quickly gained a following, as many readers were moved by their resilience and Max's incredible story. The family also began volunteering with local animal shelters, advocating for the adoption of rescue dogs and promoting the idea that every dog has the potential to be a hero. They worked alongside firefighters and first responders, providing support to families who had lost everything in fires. Sarah and John often spoke about the importance of having a plan in case of emergencies, especially for families with pets. They used their platform to encourage others to appreciate the heroes in their lives, whether human or animal, and to never take for granted the moments spent with loved ones. Max had inspired them to live more purposefully, and they were committed to helping others in ways they never thought possible. Max's bravery wasn't just inspiring to the Jenkins family, it also made a significant impact on other pets in the community. After hearing about Max's heroic actions, local animal shelters saw an increase in both adoptions and donations. People were touched by the story of a dog who risked his life to save his family, and many wanted to offer a loving home to rescue animals. Pet owners began sharing their own stories of how their dogs had been their protectors in times of need, creating a sense of solidarity among animal lovers. Max became the face of a local animal rescue campaign, with his image adorning posters and brochures encouraging pet adoption. His legacy lived on in the hundreds of animals that were given a second chance at life, and the Jenkins family was proud to know that Max's story had helped change lives beyond their own. Every time a new family adopted a dog, the Jenkins family thought of Max and how he had touched the hearts of so many. It was clear that Max's heroism had created a ripple effect, one that was changing not only the lives of the Jenkins family, but also the lives of animals and families across the community. Years passed, and Max grew older and slower, his once bright eyes now softened with age. The Jenkins family could see that their beloved dog's time was drawing near, and it broke their hearts to think of life without him. Max had been their protector, their hero, and their constant companion for so many years, and the thought of losing him was unbearable. But even in his final days, Max continued to show the same loyalty and love that had defined his life. He remained a calming presence in the home, always by their side, even if he couldn't play or run the way he once had. The family spent Max's final days making sure he felt loved and cherished. They took him on walks through his favorite park, let him nap in the sunbeam by the window, and showered him with all the treats and affection he could handle. The children, now older, spent time reminiscing about the moments Max had saved them from the fire and how he had always been their hero. They knew that Max's legacy would never be forgotten, and that his spirit would live on in their hearts forever. When the inevitable day came, the Jenkins family said goodbye to their loyal dog with tears and gratitude, knowing that Max had given them more than they could ever repay. In the months following Max's passing, the Jenkins family found comfort in creating a lasting tribute to their beloved dog. They planted a tree in their yard, a strong oak, symbolizing Max's resilience and bravery. The tree was placed near the spot where Max had loved to rest during sunny afternoons. A small plaque was engraved with his name and the words, "In memory of Max, the hero who saved us all." The family often gathered around the tree to remember Max, sharing stories of his bravery and the joy he brought to their lives. Max's memorial became a place of solace for the Jenkins family, a place where they could reflect on the incredible journey they had shared with their dog. It was a reminder of the strength of the bond between them and the profound impact Max had on their lives. The tree grew tall and strong, just as Max had in their hearts, and the family found peace knowing that Max's legacy would live on in the years to come. Max's impact didn't end with his passing. The Jenkins family continued to honor his memory in the years that followed, sharing his story with everyone they met. They kept the blog they had started alive, updating it with new stories of how Max's heroism had inspired others to adopt dogs and prepare for emergencies. The local animal shelter they worked with continued to thrive, and Max's story was often shared during adoption events. His legacy as a hero and symbol of loyalty lived on in the lives of countless animals and families. Sarah and John also used their platform to advocate for pet safety, ensuring that more families were prepared for emergencies like the fire they had endured. They shared tips on how to create fire escape plans for homes with pets, how to keep animals safe during natural disasters, and how to provide the best care for dogs as they aged. Max's legacy was far-reaching, and the Jenkins family knew that by sharing his story, they were continuing to spread the love and courage that Max had shown them all those years ago. Max's spirit of heroism lived on in everything they did, and they were proud to keep his memory alive. Years after the fire, Sarah and John decided to turn Max's incredible story into a book. They wanted to share his tale with the world, not just as a family narrative, but as an inspiring story that could encourage others to believe in the power of love and loyalty. The book, titled Max, the Hero Who Saved Us All, was written with the same love and reverence they had for their dog. It detailed the night of the fire, Max's courageous actions, and the healing process that followed. The book also featured stories from other pet owners about how their animals had protected them, creating a broader narrative about the incredible bond between humans and their pets. The book was published and quickly became a bestseller, resonating with people all over the world. It was more than just a dog story. It was a tale of resilience, hope, and the importance of family. Max's story inspired readers to reflect on their own relationships with their pets and to appreciate the moments they shared. The book's proceeds went to support animal shelters, ensuring that Max's legacy would continue to benefit animals in need for years to come. As the book gained popularity, Max's heroism was recognized on a national level. He was posthumously awarded several Animal Hero Awards, including the prestigious National Pet Hero Award, which recognized his bravery in saving the Jenkins family from the house fire. The awards ceremony was emotional for the Jenkins family, who accepted the honors on Max's behalf. They spoke about how their dog's bravery had not only saved their lives, but had also sparked a movement of kindness and heroism that extended far beyond their home. The recognition of Max's heroism brought attention to the important role pets play in their families' lives. Max's legacy continued to inspire individuals, organizations, and communities to better support pets and their owners. The awards were a testament to the lasting impact Max had on the world, and the Jenkins family felt a deep sense of pride knowing that their dog's bravery was being celebrated in such a meaningful way. In honor of Max's memory, the Jenkins family established a memorial fund dedicated to pet safety. The fund provided grants to families who were struggling to afford pet care, as well as resources for disaster preparedness, including fire safety and emergency evacuation plans for pets. The fund also supported training programs for first responders, ensuring that they knew how to rescue animals during emergencies. Max's story had opened the door to a broader conversation about pet safety, and the Memorial Fund played a crucial role in helping protect other pets and families in need. Through the Memorial Fund, the Jenkins family continued to carry on Max's legacy, ensuring that his heroism would inspire future generations. They worked tirelessly to make sure that pets were included in emergency preparedness plans and that every pet had the opportunity to be safe, loved, and cared for in times of crisis. Max's legacy was now woven into a larger mission to protect pets everywhere, and his story had become a symbol of the power of animals to change lives. Even though Max was no longer physically present, his spirit lived on in everything the Jenkins family did. They carried his memory with them every day, honoring his bravery, loyalty, and love. His impact was felt not just by the family, but by countless others who had been touched by his story. Max had shown the world what it meant to be a true hero, and his legacy would never be forgotten. As the years went by, the Jenkins family continued to celebrate Max's life, cherishing the memories they had with their incredible dog. His story was passed down through generations, inspiring future generations to be brave, kind, and loyal. Max's life was a reminder that heroes come in all shapes and sizes, and that even the smallest acts of courage can change the course of history. The Jenkins family would forever be grateful to Max for the life lessons he had taught them, and his memory would live on in their hearts forever.